With yesterday's game, all but guaranteeing the Indiana Fever make the playoffs unless they lose their last 8 games of the year. Not long now, lads. Not long now. And if you guys are wondering why I'm saying not long now, I think it's not long until Caitlin Clark comes back. If we're 7, how many games does Fever have? Is it 7 or 8? Either way, the Fever are 2 wins away from guaranteeing a playoff spot, and they're 1 win away from probably getting a playoff spot. The 2 wins away from guaranteeing one.
Did Stephanie White just get caught lying about Caitlin Clark's injury on live TV? Fans think so, and the receipts are starting to pile up. ESPN told us Clark could be back in practice soon, but the Fever's official timeline tells a totally different story.
She went through it yesterday, and I want to see her in practice, live in practice. Want to see her continue to work.
The problem is that the Fever aren't really going to go live in practice for the rest of the year because they don't have that many days off.
Whatever you normally do, and what do you want to see ultimately to get comfort whenever the time comes?
Yeah, she went through our walkthrough yesterday. Today it was very short, prior to game time. But
and look, Caitlin's not coming back for Friday. Caitlin's almost certainly not coming back against the Mercury. She might come back against the Vox. But my prediction has been not from the start. My prediction originally was that she was going to be back.
And here's the kicker. We've got practice footage that doesn't match what White claimed. Was this just sloppy communication or a calculated cover-up to protect ticket sales and TV ratings? Stick with me, because the inconsistencies only get stranger. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So did you click the subscribe button? Great. Thank you so much. Now back to the video.
But nonetheless, on a basketball court. It's been a long time since we've seen Caitlin Clark on a basketball court. Certainly a long time since we've seen Caitlin Clark play basketball. Even handling the ball, working with her teammates. I mean, that's an important sign there, to see her working with her teammates, being reintegrated with the teammates. Because if you look at the Fever injury list, it's just wild to see. Then there was a little bit more footage here, and you see Caitlin involved on the floor yet again.
Imagine this. You're told Caitlin Clark is supposed to be back soon, but then the practice videos pop up and she's casually walking around, chatting, and moving like nothing serious ever happened. No limp, no obvious discomfort. Fans are left staring at their screens, asking the same question. How are we supposed to believe these injury updates when the evidence in front of us makes it look totally different? That's where the timeline starts to fall apart. And that's when Stephanie White's comments on live TV made everything even messier. White went on record saying that Clark was status quo until back at practice.
Star Wars scroll at the end of one of those movies. It's just a endless list of players who have been out, back out of the lineup again, and really just a lineup that you could build. Odyssey Sims, probable. So she had the injury. By the way, she signed another contract, so Odyssey Sims will stay with the team. She can not sign another 7-day hardship contract, so a decision will be made on her within a week. If you were the Indiana Fever, you could roll out there if you were experimenting, depending on the situation and the nature of the game. I mean, here's the injury list that the Fever released.
Think about how flat that sounds. No detail, no real medical context, just a vague label that Clark wasn't moving forward until she hit the practice floor. If you take that literally, then fans would assume she was basically sidelined in recovery mode, waiting for clearance. Except the second you put that side by side with what ESPN announced on August 12th, saying Clark could be back soon, the pieces don't match. ESPN was leaning toward optimism, but the Fever's tone was totally different, like they wanted to stretch out the clock as long as possible.
Third, fourth hand information, but that's the chatter through the grapevine. And what is the one thing I always want to say? I don't have any sources. It was literally just a case of the ankle injury set her back another couple of weeks because she couldn't ramp it up. That's the rumor. That's from what I've heard. And again, these aren't sources. These are sources of a source of a source.
That disconnect didn't stay low-key. Fans with sharp eyes dug through every clip and quickly noticed the gaps. At workouts, Clark looked way too normal for someone who was supposedly battling a groin injury serious enough to keep her completely out of game action. You could see her laughing on the sideline, doing light movements, and walking around without hesitation. Normally, with that type of injury, you'd spot some hesitation or favoring one side, but with Clark, there was nothing obvious. People didn't just stop at analyzing her movement. Natasha Howard dropped a playful line during a media session, "See you soon, Cece," and the fan base jumped all over it. To them, it sounded like confirmation Clark was close, maybe even already ready. So now you had teammates signaling one story, ESPN sharing another, and White insisting everything was holding steady until practices began again. The contradictions piled up, and they made the official messaging look less like a plan and more like a smokescreen. And then came the clip that took things to another level. Assistant coach Bion January was seen in practice accidentally stepping on Clark's foot. The clip went viral fast, not because the incident looked catastrophic, but because it handed fuel to an alternate theory. Fans began saying maybe the groin story wasn't the whole picture. What if the team was hiding the actual cause? What if something else on top of it was being kept secret? The theories spread fast, and once people feel misled, the reaction turns from curiosity into suspicion. At that point, what could have been explained away as bad communication was being painted as deliberate misdirection. People started labeling it a cover-up, pointing to the timing of announcements and the way every version of events seemed strategically chosen rather than transparent. And when you consider the stakes, it makes sense why people connected those dots. We're not talking about just another player here. Clark has been selling out arenas, setting TV records, and pulling more sponsors to the WNBA than anyone in years. Every home game and every broadcast featuring her means more revenue, so the Fever had massive incentive to control how her absence was framed. From that angle, the inconsistencies don't just look sloppy, they look calculated. It's the kind of thing that makes fans question whether the organization is putting honesty behind closed doors or doing everything possible to protect the bottom line. And once that idea takes root, it changes how every update is received. People no longer ask, when is she coming back? They ask, what aren't they telling us? So now the story isn't only about Caitlin Clark limping off the schedule for a groin issue. The real story is whether the Fever, and maybe even the league, have risked their credibility by spinning half-truths to keep control of the narrative. And if this really was a cover-up rather than confusion, then the consequences reach far beyond a few upset fans. This kind of move could spark backlash from sponsors, raise hard questions for the WNBA's reputation, and change how people trust official updates moving forward. The Fever might have created a problem bigger than they realize. By handling Clark's injury the way they did, they've put more than just a player update at risk. Fans start asking if they can even trust what the team or the league says moving forward. And when trust goes, sponsors and media partners notice too, which could hit the WNBA where it hurts most, its growth. So here's the question you need to answer. Was this sloppy or was it controlled? Drop your take below because women's basketball needs accountability, and what happens next could shift everything.